Hello everyone. I am incredibly honored to welcome all of you on behalf of ELISA to our very first Confab event. So ELISA stands for the Entrepreneurial and Leadership Initiative for Sustainability in Africa. This is a member network of entrepreneurs and leaders from a variety of sectors who really value the opportunity to connect, to discover, and to grow. These confabs are free events which are open to the entire ELISA community, which really includes some high potential entrepreneurs and founders with bold ideas for solving some of the greatest challenges that we face in Africa. So the theme of today's event is going against the flow. And what's the objective? The objective is really to inspire youth, to inspire us as participants and help us build relationships and grow a network, right? And today we're going to have, and I heard from Scott and Dusty that we have people joining us from all over the world and really like-minded individuals who are aligned behind a common purpose of helping take Africa, this continent that we all love so much, to the next level. So my name is Marie-Ange Noué. I am originally from Cameroon, born in Paris, France, and then I live currently in Ontario, Canada. I'm a scientist by training, and I work as a senior director and head of scientific communications for a global science and technology company, and also have the pleasure of serving on the advisory council for ELISA. So as I mentioned earlier, the theme of today's event is really going against the flow, right? And we are so incredibly fortunate to have a guest speaker who really, in my opinion, embodies what it means to be inspirational and to go against the flow. So let me tell you a little bit about her. So Angelle Kwemo is the president and the CEO of Astrategik Group. That's a firm that provides international trade, advisory and strategic services to entities that are willing to engage with Africa and emerging markets. You may recognize her from when she co-hosted Countdown to the White House TV show covering the 2020 presidential elections. And really, Angelle, when she was doing this show, she really was covering this for what, more than 14 million African audiences to target the African descent voting bloc. She's also the founder of Believe in Africa. And this is an organization that promotes the role of the African private sector in Africa's transformation and really empowering women and youth. She actually hosted the very first African Women in Agriculture Congress, and this led to the creation of African Women in Agriculture and Art. And this is a platform to support rural women in Africa, graduate from subsistence to commercial farming and handicraft. And she has, I believe, nearly 600,000 women in rural areas across 22 countries in Africa who have benefited from this initiative. So Angelle has received so many accolades for her exemplary work. I mean, she received the District of Columbia government's Public Service Award. She received a citation from Maryland's governor, Martin O'Malley. She was one of the 50 most powerful women in business leadership. She was named one of the world's most influential Africans in diaspora. She's been one of the 50 most inspiring Africans. She's just received it all. And she's also an author of a book. So she wrote a book called Against All Odds, How to Stay on Top of the Game. And very much again in line with the theme of today's event, right? Going against the flow. And you may have seen her on many international media, Africa Report, Le Point, Voice of America TV, the BBC, France 2, TV5, France 24. Like she's just has so much impact all over the world. So it's really, really, really my pleasure to welcome Angelle Kwemo for some inspirational remarks. Angelle?
Oh God, thank you very much, Marie-Ange. I don't know who you're introducing, but that's not me. The way you said it, it makes me look very serious. I'm just Angelle Kwemo, a young dreamer was born in Cameroon, like Marie-Ange, and grew up in Cameroon, France, and now for the past 22 years, I've been in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for ELISA for this important initiative supporting the job creation in Africa and sustainability. And this is actually what we want, and this is what is in line with what we all believe in. We all believe in Africa. You want to make sure the private sector play an important part, the more important part in the transformation of the continent. And thank you very much for the entire team, for Elizabeth, for your vision, and for all the audience today. You have many, many, many opportunities to be on live because there's so many programs out there. But we decided to come and listen to me. I'm very humbled, and I'm really grateful for your time in conversing with me. So, as Marie-Ange said, my entire life is against all odds, and it's one of my mentors here in Washington who told me that was the theme of my life when I was thinking about writing a book, and I share my story, part of my story, because I'm not done yet. I haven't even started yet. I'm just warming up. And with the dreamers like myself and from different background, and hoping that we all going to be able to fulfill our potential. So the story, your story, and what I want to talk to you about is the story of young girls like you and I, who grew up in an environment where everything is against her. Physical appearance, she's too dark, she's too skinny. She's like Marie-Ange and I. When you're in the 60s, when you're Marie-Ange and I, you're no use for anybody. You can't even get married. So if you're outspoken, even worse, because as a young girl in the 60s or 70s, I'm not that old, I'm only 20. You're not supposed to have dreams. You cannot even think about being part of the conversation. If you're a woman, your only job in society is to clap your hands, dance when men are making decisions. So, and when you don't think that you fit into that mindset, you are classified as a bad woman. You're not even cannot even be a professional. So, in my early age, I grew up with that mindset, thinking that I would be useless. I will not even get married and have children because I'm ugly. And I decided to fight. So, first, I want to be a flight attendant because I want to travel. They told me it was not good for me. Then I want to dance. I want to be an entertainer. They told me I would be a prostitute. I want to join the military because I want to fight with the boys. My dad told me if you go to the police school or military school, my uncle was a commissaire. I don't know how you call it in English. It was sheriff. They told me if they put me in military school, if Angelle is allowed to carry a weapon, I will kill everybody. So I said, no, go. She can't go to police school or military school. Then they opened the TV in Cameroon. I thought, okay, I'm going to be a TV anchor. I'll be a journalist. My dad told me, you speak so fast. If you're a TV anchor, the news, the commercial will be done in 5 minutes. Nobody will understand anything. So I have to quit that thing. That's one as well. So I finished high school, went to France, said, you know what to do? Went to modeling for a year until I found that I couldn't do that job because I didn't like the idea of being portrayed everywhere and touched. And anyway, so I went to law school. My aunt will be surprised why I went to law school. I have choice between economy, because I was running my business already. Be an economist, be a psychologist, be a doctor, no way. The only place I can go and fight was law school, using my words as an instrument, as a weapon. So I went to law school. And my inspiration, my aunt will be surprised. There was 2 women in Cameroon back then that were perceived as being fearless. Number one was 2 lawyers, Maître Siewe and Maître Kwemo. Those women make a big difference in the legal world. One I had access to when I grew up, when I finished law school, the other one I didn't have access to. I didn't have access to my aunt's mother, who was one of the most prolific lawyers at that time. Those were 2 my inspiration. And Metrocom was the other one I finally got access to, who sponsored me to become a lawyer in Cameroon. Then I get married with everybody. I went against all odds again as a reaction to some opposition I had with the judiciary system in Cameroon. And I decided to go to Washington, D.C., where decisions are made, where you have the highest concentration, in my view, of experts. I came on Washington, went back to law school, and got a job on Capitol Hill, working on foreign affairs. So to the young girls, I'm talking about that part of my story because that's where I built the foundation to what I'm doing now. And if I didn't take the chance, if I was listening to the naysayers, listening to all my environmental limitation, I wouldn't be today where I am now, even as a business person, as an influencer. So do not listen to what people are telling you, even if you're against the odds. Yes, today, when I left Congress in 2014 to start my business, I started from $50,000 investment, and in 3 years, I was making eight figures. And then on, and I built our Ghost Advocacy Group to continue to advocate for people like us here in Washington, D.C. and on the continent. And now we are adjusting the COVID-19 situation since last year. So we were against the odds. And that was me, maybe Marie-Ange and others back then. The only thing we have in common with you today is that we still have the same environmental regulatory framework. In the continent, for example, for private sector company, for SME to grow, you need to have a strong skin and be resilient because the system is also against you, especially Francophone countries. Regulatory challenges, tax challenges. The public sector is not always very welcoming or very conducive for the private sector to grow, even though everybody's saying that no, there's no job, you don't have a job, the government cannot hire everybody, therefore we need to create our own job. So it's a good opportunity for us today because we are trending. But the difference between your generation, if you consider yourself between 25 and 35, is that in our time, we didn't have any support from the establishment. Today, we have a global understanding that the private sector, the SMEs, the entrepreneurs need to strive. We have a global understanding that women need to be on the driver's seat of the economy. We have a global understanding that entrepreneurs need to be on the driver's seat of our economy. And then you have easy access to information. We didn't have back then. What I was doing in Cameroon, I have no clue what my sisters or the same lady in Senegal or in Zimbabwe was doing. Today, you are in one phone call away from Douala, from Dakar to Harare or to Durban in South Africa. So in almost simultaneously, you have access to information, you can build your network, you can communicate, and you have access to opportunities. And this is why I can tell you, you may not agree with me, you are no longer against the odds. You are trending. Now you have no excuse if you don't succeed. Because what will make the difference between the one who's failing yourself is your skin, it's your resilience. Because business is hard, like everything is hard. If it wasn't hard, you won't be calling yourself successful. If you embody something that everybody can achieve, then there's no reward. So you have to look for the challenge. Me, I always tell my mentee that if you have to look for the honey, but if you're not ready to challenge the bees, you will not get the honey. So look for the bees, look for challenges, and try to solve it. That's what you're going to have your reward. And the key would be obviously what you have today: the networking, the system, the fact that you can even communicate within each other, learn from each other's experiences. Educate yourself. You don't have to have a PhD or MBA. Right now, if you have a computer, behind your computer, you can learn every skills you want behind your computer. And the computer costs $200 now. So you have everything in your hands now to succeed, despite the fact that the framework is still against you. But that one, you can address it because you can use the power of your voice. We didn't have any voice back then. We all labeled as stubborn, revolutionary, and we were just human being, normal person who want to contribute to the life, who want to work, and earn a living. But today it's not the same environment. So therefore we really need to focus on what you want to do, transform your idea into your bankable project, educate yourself, work hard to make it happen, join a network of like-minded people like Elisha, so you can share best practices, educate yourself, and create your market where we can all exchange services and move together in the Ubuntu philosophy. I am because you are. So in a nutshell, I will close by saying my favorite mantra is, it is impossible until it's done. So everything is possible today. You just need to work hard on it. And the entire universe is looking forward to see the manifestation of the power of the African children and African women. I believe the sky is limitless. The COVID-19 situation is negative. It's having a toll on all of us, but at the same time, it's presenting huge and massive opportunities in the digital world. We missed the industrial revolution. Please use your network and don't miss the fourth revolution and all the digital world. We are too old for that, but we're still learning. I'm taking classes now to reinvent myself in IT. If I came here at 35, wasn't speaking English, at 55, I can be an engineer. So I'm adjusting to the environment, and I'm telling you, use your network power and own part of this digital world, because it presents limitless opportunities and a great future for the continent. That being said, I'm looking forward to answer your questions.
Wow, Angelle. What an inspirational story, Angelle. And actually, I'm gonna have my mom listen to this recording, because I'm sure she doesn't have any idea that she was actually part of your inspiration for becoming a lawyer. But thank you so much for this very inspiring story. And really, the advice, that really stands out for me is, when you say, don't listen to the naysayers, when you are against the odds. And I could so much relate to everything that you were describing, right? And it really, really resonated with me. So I'm taking that as a takeaway. Don't listen to the naysayers when you're against the odds. And also, I hear you when you say that today, right, with the access to information that we have really at our fingertips, there are no longer excuses, right, to not succeed. We have everything in our hands to succeed. And I also love when you say, women really need to be in the driver's seat for the economy in Africa. One thing that I also know that I really like, that I'm going to use it. I've stole so many things from you that I'm going to recycle somewhere else. But I love when you talk about, challenging the bees to get to the honey. I love that. So as Angelle, we are actually in the midst of preparing for the ELISA summit to be held in Hwange, Zimbabwe next year, and really bringing together the community, entrepreneurs, leaders from all across the world to talk and brainstorm about how to help Africa, how to take Africa to the next level. So when you think about these bees, that you refer to, what are some of the bees that, we should be thinking of, and maybe even bringing them, inviting them to the summit next year to again help us, address, the challenges that may be in front of us when it comes to really helping take Africa to that next level? What do you see as some of those challenges that we should be, keeping in mind as we all think about, Africa of the future? I'm just curious on your thoughts.
Just to clarify, you want the question from the entrepreneurial side, on the policy side?
Maybe entrepreneur side then. Yes.
Yeah, the business. This now that everybody agreed that we need to create 22 million jobs by 2022. 2022, we were saying that 10 years ago. 2022 is next year.
Yeah.
I don't even think you have even started. We need to do 10% of it. But everybody's talking about entrepreneurship. All the youth are going, they even have entrepreneurship classes. But the reality is, like everything in policy, when people follow the trend, the danger of it is everybody goes, but nobody succeeds. The failure rate in the entrepreneurial system for the women, for example, I'm paying more close attention to women. We have the highest rate and also the highest failing rate. And what makes a difference is the leadership. We need to invest in leadership and resilience, because everybody is going now and starting the business with no vision. Sometimes because this one is working. I don't know if you noticed, I know about Cameroon, I've not lived in any other countries. If somebody opened a business here, he looks at it working, the next 2-3 months, everybody's doing the same thing. But they're not gonna all survive. So we need to find a way to, and maybe that's something that ELISA can do with the collab or with the network, is follow everybody and then find a way to at some point collapse all the businesses into one. Because when you look at the ecosystem, sometimes people are doing the same thing, but they're not in symbiosis. We need to make the network now more effective long term. And that's a new business model that needs to be created for the continent. I know it's going to be hard, but it's like Amazon. Everybody wants to sell. So now they create a system where everybody can sell everybody's products. So everybody's taking advantage of the system. So we need to find a way to create those long-term sustainable network to make sure that even though everybody's going to entrepreneur is launching the startup, they can survive together. That's number one. Access to capital is a problem. But we think, to me, it's not always a problem because there's money. But making sure that you have access to that money is a problem because everything's linked, because there's no foundation. They don't have strategy. They don't have history. They focus more on having a good pitch, a good idea, but not in building the foundation that will take them 2 or 3 years. They want to have this idea. I can present why I look nice. I'm a young girl, blah, blah. I pitch. I have an award. 5,000 award here, 10,000 award here. In the Tony Aluminum initiative I've been part of when we launched, we found out that when I talked to all those winners, many of them are not who got the money as doing other businesses. Meaning the most important thing was the education they gave them. The 5,000 was just the carrot, something that attracted them. They use that, what the skill they have. The business they will get funded for, most of them failed, but they use their education, their training to other businesses, and now they're surviving. So this is one other thing that I've learned. On the policy side, the judiciary system is terrible in 60 or 70% of African countries. Terrible. You cannot have a stable economy when you have a justice system, when you have a mafia of judges who do not understand their job. So the youth, now I'm not calling for revolution, but the power of the number, having a voice is also if you don't use it properly, it's not just to go and articulate your position. There are 3 things that need to be happening when you want to be to influence: the public opinion, the procedure, and the policy. So public opinion is you. You have the network, you have the voice. Use it to influence. The decision makers, all the stakeholders today, they're already convinced what needs to be done. Now you need to pressure them to do it. Everybody, all the ministers, the president, they all talk about the private sector, blah, blah, blah. Perfect rhetoric. But on the ground, you cannot go to court if you have a commercial dispute. You get arrested because you owe somebody money to your neighbor. Just on Friday now, they will take you to the police and you spend the night there. We had a situation last week with this young girl that you all know who got arrested. It happened to me. You sit in front of the judge is telling you this thing is blue. You know the thing is blue. He's saying it's yellow. You say, no, Mr. Judge, this is not blue, it's yellow. You insist. It happened to me. I told one of the judge one day, Mr. Judge, listen, I understand you don't understand maritime law. You're not supposed to understand penal law, legal law, penal law, commercial law, all the laws. I don't know all the laws. I don't know anything about real estate, for example. If you don't know maritime law, what you do in a situation like this, you adjourn, you call your expert, they give you advice, and you make a decision. But don't be stupid, don't embarrass yourself in front of the entire audience. He almost got me arrested. I wasn't arrested because I was working for a French firm. It was not just Angelle. It was Angelle working for a big French company. It was just me. I would be arrested. This is abuse of power. So we need to educate the judicial system, the lawyers, the judges about corruption. You also need to educate the civil servant. They have no clue of what it is to open a business. So therefore, when you start your business, you put your name at the door. The next day, they come and collect tax. So we need to find a way to educate those people, even give them training. I don't know. Because the same thing, the government official, they have a different mindset. When you work for the government, you are wired to spend the money allocated by the government until the end of the year. The businessman is trying to save the money so he can have profit. There are two different mindsets. So we need to educate and train all these people. Maybe if the government doesn't want to do it, maybe NGOs can just launch a campaign to educate the civil servant, the judges, or the importance of what they're doing so they can understand that the private sector and them, we are working together for the good of the community. We all need each other. They need our tax to pay their salary. So the policy, that little things that can make a difference if you structure our network as a voice. It's not about challenging the government. Sometimes those governments, sometimes they need that because they always use what the constitution are telling them into policy. If nobody say anything, they're not going to include that in the. If you don't want to just be out there and keep burning stuff, and activism is not always reacting. Activism can also bring a solution. I say, okay, listen, we want to train you and have you understand what needs to be done. So things like that. But for the last thing, I talk a lot, I can be a pastor. The last thing, talking about bees, is I'm encouraging everybody to go to the digital. There are massive opportunities on digital. And then it's one thing that the two things that we Black people, we African, we have, and there's no way you can cheat, is your brain and your physical. Nobody can cheat. If you sit down and you produce something, you use your brain to create something, there's no way anybody to want to tell you that, no, it doesn't have any value. Especially now, we can always have alternative. If you don't have support in your hometown, you can have support in other places. If like Cameroon are not supporting me, then Zimbabwe can support me. If I cannot sell in Cameroon, I will sell in Zimbabwe. This is all Africa. You don't have to be in Africa to be African. You can be in Ontario. You can be in Washington, D.C. You can be everywhere. As long as you are contributing to the good of our lifetime, because we're all connected. It's not just about helping Africans. It's all helping a continent that needs to be sitting at the place where it's supposed to be. Because if the continent is collapsing, the entire world is collapsing. If Ebola picks up, I heard 2 days ago that there was one case of Ebola in Cote d'Ivoire. If a disease, something crazy happened in Senegal or in Abuja or in India, it's affecting you in Ontario, it's affecting me in Washington, D.C., because you're all connected. So when you embark in this journey, it's not just being pro-African or being Pan-African. It's being for the future and for fairness and equity and justice. Mm-hmm.
Such a comprehensive answer. Anyone wants to jump in, get off camera and ask?
Yes, actually, it's not actually a question. I just want to support what she is saying by saying that I think we have a lot of issues regarding like we have what we call it. I'm actually, okay, let me introduce myself first. I'm Angelle Kwemo, and I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm a lecturer in entrepreneurship at the Midland State University. So in my experience, or in my knowledge rather, of studying entrepreneurship and immersing myself in these various things, I've noticed that the entrepreneurial system is not in place. So it composes of everything that she has been saying, to say that the policies, maybe even the universities, strategic links with the industry and all those things are there, but there's no proper coordination of all of them so that they make something that's meaningful and actually cultivates that culture of entrepreneurship and make sure that people are out there and are looking for the bees, as she rightfully says, as she rightfully puts it. So I just feel that all those things are there, and maybe if we could have more of these workshops with maybe policymakers and maybe try and bridge that gap so that when they actually formulate these policies, they actually encourage or cultivate that culture of entrepreneurship so that we harvest a lot of entrepreneurs and actually build that culture. Because for one to be an entrepreneur, it has to come from within. And it doesn't really, it's not curriculum or teaching entrepreneurship is not enough, but you have to create a conducive environment for it to actually work for a country, for it to actually work for us as Africans and all those things. So I guess that's just the long and short of it, of what I wanted to say. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You need to create those clusters. Even when you promote entrepreneurship, it has to be respond to the needs. Let's say, for example, you work in this particular region, you can work with the industry, the university, and create a cluster there. So when you create entrepreneurs, they can supply the demand of the region. So, but that's the government need to play. Somebody to be usher, somebody to be the convener, and they also need to understand what role you are playing, because they don't. Most of the civil servants have no clue. They don't understand. I'm talking about Cameroon because I spent almost 6 months for the first time in 30 years in Cameroon. And I created 2 companies there. It's a nightmare. So tax-wise, I'm not just in Cameroon, but if you go to other places, even countries like Nigeria, who's perceived as being the most corrupt and things, it's different. You can create your company in a minute. You have no stress. Nobody will come at your door to ask you to pay taxes. But all these people, they go to big conferences and talk about things that you have in the books. In Africa, we are really good at that. In the books, things always look perfect, with the implementation and the accountability. And that's what the civil society gets into, has a role to play. Work on accountability and work on the implementation of what the policy they already put in place. So I think, thank you very much, Angelle.
Thank you so much, Angelle. This was so insightful. I can promise you there's going to be follow-ups because we can learn so much from you, from this entire group, put our heads together and really try to get to those bees. Thank you so much, Angelle.